Welcome to the Couple on Fire podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk all about growing means outgrowing, and that's coming up
right now.
Welcome to today's show, guys. If you're just joining us for the very first time, I am one of your hosts, Josh. I'm here with the always beautiful, awesome, wonderful Miss Kristy.
Hello.
How are you, love?
I'm not good.
You're not good?
No.
Well, let's talk about that here in just 1 second. We're going to actually dive into a little bit of why she's not good. Guys, if you're just joining us right now, we are a couple on fire, not just for the Lord, which we are, and not just for marriages, which we are, but also for individual and personal development and growth. So
and for each other.
And for each other. So I said for marriage.
Yeah.
I did mention that.
Not just other marriages.
No. We're not on fire for other marriages. We're on fire for our own. If this is something that interests you and you want to hear us do this every once in a while, because we do it more often than you think, tune into here. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things, guys. We are here each and every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. is when our podcast goes on. They're little snippets, around 15, 20 minutes long. Okay. With all that being said, share.
So, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, because it's only been a week. Stella hurt herself again. So
we have a dog named
she's our dog, and she's already had back surgery once. So now she's on crate rest for, it's supposed to be 8 weeks, but I don't think we're going to do 8 weeks. I think we're going to do 4.
We're going to flush her down the toilet.
But it's super stressful. So, because she pants and we take her to the doctor and the doctor that does her acupuncture, and she's like, it's the steroids, all this stuff. But anyway, I'm just stressed out.
So Kristy doesn't do well with that stuff. So if she pants, she freaks out. And so she just stresses out really, really easily over this. So I've actually never seen you stress about any one thing ever in the whole time we've been together for like 14 years than you do about this dog.
Mm-hmm. I do think it's because the time that it all stems from the time that she went completely paralyzed.
Yeah.
And we took her to the vet 2 days in a row, and both days they were like, it's her knees. And then the next thing you know, by that evening, she's dragging her bottom half of her body around. And that like seriously traumatized me. I'll like start crying about it, talking about it. It was awful to see, your pet, go through that. And so now it's like I'm just constantly anticipating that happening again.
Mm-hmm.
So even when she's well, she's never going to be 100% well, the guys, around that still live around here, him, little Josh, Graydon, I'm like, you guys cannot play with her so rough. So every time they start playing with her, I'm like hovering and I'm like, don't do that. That's too far. You threw it too far, and then of course she hurt herself again. So. But she didn't become paralyzed.
Which validates every single time somebody did something the year before.
Right.
Which makes it a non-win situation, which is really poopy, actually.
But anyway, I love this dog like so much.
A little too much, I think. I think she likes this dog more than she likes anybody on this planet.
That's not true.
I think it's true. I think it's being proved. She's never this stressed over me. I do know that. Okay, guys. So what we're going to talk about today is growing is outgrowing, right? Growing means outgrowing. And what does that actually mean? Well, the definition of that is when we begin to change in life, we and our circles of people are going to change. And if they don't ever change, that should tell us a little bit about one of two things. Number one, either we're not growing or the people that are around us aren't growing along with us. And so I think there's a really high level of importance of understanding the value of growing and outgrowing and how important it really is.
Yeah, I think that everybody not I think, it's true. We all grow at different speeds. That's what makes marriage so difficult, right? Like you both are individuals, you're both growing, and you have vowed to stay together no matter what. If one of you is grown by leaps and bounds and the other ones have kind of been stuck. But when it comes to any other type of relationship, I think what makes healthy individuals is not having a bitter or resentment in your heart if somebody has grown faster than you and they have maybe changed their circles to try to elevate even farther. And then let's say they only reach out to you every 6 months, you run into each other. You can be adults about it and be a healthy individual and still wish each other well. There's going to be people that grow faster than you. You're going to grow faster than others.
Yeah.
And I think it's a sign of maturity and emotional health to not be bitter and resentful and angry about that. Like, we should be excited about people's growth, our own growth and others' growth.
It should be, right? But I believe that codependency is what holds us back from doing the
Yeah,
things that are necessary for us to grow. And let me explain a little bit about that. We become codependent
explain.
on we become codependent on these relationships with people because we don't want other people to feel bad about themselves. And what does that do? That holds us back from growing in areas. A lot of times this is family, right? It's a lot of times it's family, but not just that. A lot of times we grow up with really close-knit people, really good friends maybe we make in high school or in college, and then we feel almost obligated, like we're supposed to. You can turn on 10 movies, and 6 out of the 10 movies are going to have the same storyline in it. It's going to be one person that is constantly helping another person within a relationship, and it's always that way. And because of this, that codependent relationships, it really prevents us from growing in the areas that we need to grow. And we don't have to lose friendships or relationships. We can then decide to say, we're going to alter the way that this friendship and relationship works that isn't going to hold me back from growing in the areas that I need to grow.
Yeah, and
That's hard.
I think some of the hard part is, though, those people that are more immature about it
Sure.
and not as healthy is that when the codependent person that you're growing and you're like feeling like, okay, I'm beyond this. I don't have time for this drama. I don't have time for this. You become potentially the villain in that person's story. And that's scary for some people
Sure.
because then that person, that's why I was saying like the bitter and resentment and all of that, because then they want to go around and talk about you or talk negatively about you. And you're the bad guy because you've left them all alone and their life is so horrible, all of these types of things. So then it really weighs on your codependency. If you are a person that cares about other people, you don't want somebody to feel that way. You don't want to be the villain in somebody else's story. And really accepting your own growth and just understanding that is out of your control. You can't control what other people say about you. And so you have to let that go. And that is extremely hard.
It is extremely hard, but I think that's where we're able to define relationships when we're growing and outgrowing other people. If we're outgrowing somebody and those people are being and treating us like the villain, then we now know that that relationship is probably something we are not going to be able to save, maybe later down the road. And we don't have to be bitter or angry
Right.
or mean to these people to just, move away from that relationship. And those are sometimes those are life-changing decisions for yourself, right? And so it's not easy. Kristy's saying it's one of the hardest things we have to do. That's why I think this topic is so important when we understand the way that we grow. Is God has created us to grow. He wants us to grow. He doesn't punish us. God doesn't punish us, but he does things and puts us in positions in our lives so we become more reliant on him and that we grow from those situations. And if we don't grow in it, we stay in it. And that's our relationships are the same way. They become where we're, it's kind of like being the smartest person in the room. It's the worst room you can be in. Why? Because you can't grow within that room. There's not enough fertilizer in that room to help you out. And we have to understand that outgrowing people is part of growth. And that's a hard concept for us to grab a hold of when we have to put rubber to the road.
Yeah, or if it's not necessarily growing, maybe we just change. So, like, I was an alcoholic, Josh was an alcoholic. And then when I decided to quit drinking, I couldn't be in a lot of those situations anymore. And just because all the people that I used to hang out with all drank doesn't mean they were alcoholics. It just means that they could drink and not have a problem. And I just could not be in the situations anymore. So I had to change my circle and change my situations. Would I go out with any of them now to dinner or somewhere separate? Yeah, I would. But the majority of the time that we all got together and hung out was not going out to dinner. It wasn't going shopping. It was drinking. That's what we all did together and going to parties.
Yeah.
And so I had to remove myself. And then people take that personally when you do that. And it had nothing to do with them. I'm the one that had the problem. And I think that it's twofold there. Like, you're growing, but you're also maybe changing or evolving, and you're trying to cut out bad habits or bad things in your own life. And you talk about gossip. That is not, people are like, they don't take that and compare that to alcoholism. That's worse because gossip goes down into your heart and it makes root. And so if you are in a circle of people that all they do is complain about situations and gossip about other people, you have to change your circle in that. You have to. You're never going to get out of that because negativity wins every time. You can be the most positive person ever on the planet. And if you are constantly surrounding yourself with negative, complaining, just victim-minded people, that will win. That will change you.
You got to wear you down.
It will wear you down.
But I think this real struggle is thinking that we can do both. We can
Yes.
manage it, right?
That's
We're going to
so
be able
good.
to
Yes.
we're going to be able to manage it, right? No, I don't have to lose these relationships. I'm stronger than this. And that's something that we had to learn through our own recovery is that Josh, am not stronger than alcohol. I'm not stronger than a liquid. I'm not. I know that I'm not. And so I need to set myself up to win, not set myself up to be challenged. I'm going to challenge myself to be victorious over the situation. I'm going to stay in it and win over it. And that's not how you win. You win by putting yourself in a position to win. And that includes growing. If we're not putting ourselves in a situation where we're like, hey, I'm being honest with myself right now, this situation, I can't grow. I can't become the better version of what God's calling me to be in this situation. So I have to learn how to adapt in a new situation and then handle this one on a different way. And that's really hard for us to accept because we think that we're being mean when we're leaving one situation or one friendship or relationship with something or somebody, and then we're moving on to something else, that we're being mean, and it's not that. God's calling us to something greater. And we all have future aspirations of who we want to be, or we should at least, right? Who do we want to be? Do we want to be a healthier version of ourselves? Do we want to be a smarter version of ourselves? Do we want to be a better giver in our lives? Do we want to be a better spouse? Do we want to be these things? Are we surrounding ourselves with the people that are doing those things as well? And that's a hard conversation to have with ourselves and with our friends.
Yeah, and God is always calling us to grow and grow deeper, but let's just go down to the most basic. If you don't believe in Jesus, let's just get down to the most basic thing if you're not a believer. If I am come around you and you guilt me, make me feel bad about myself every time I'm around you, don't be surprised that I don't want to be around you anymore. And that is even outside of me growing, me saying God is growing me and taking me to a different level, me trying to change myself. That is just the most basic thing. If you are constantly the person that every time you get around somebody, you're guilting them into something or trying to make them feel guilty about something, or you're being negative or trying to make them feel bad about themselves or trying to argue with them about one of their beliefs, why would somebody want to be around you? And that's something that you need to ask yourself. Are you growing? And that means, are you growing? Is people feeling better after you leave them? Are they feeling better or worse? That's good self-reflection questions to ask.
Well, I think that's a great side note to this whole thing. I mean, are you being fertilizer or are you being weed killer?
Ooh.
What are you being?
That should be the title of this.
What are you being, though? And we have to ask ourselves that. And that's not an easy thing to ask because nobody wants to admit that they're the problem, right? And a lot of times what ends up happening in situations, it's like, okay, if you look at all your relationships and they constantly are changing and everybody is constantly moving on, there's one common factor that lies in that. And it's probably you. And that's a hard thing. And we can't rely on everybody else to hold us up and support us and make us feel good about us all the time. It's not their job. If we have a supportive group of people around us, that's fantastic. But the only way they're going to be supportive is if we're supportive. Right. And so that little machine that goes around and around and around like a hamster wheel is only going to continue to do that. And those people are only going to stay on that wheel if you're feeding into it as well. But if you're feeding negativity and weed killer, nothing can grow in that situation.
But one thing in life, the point of this too, is your circle will change as you go about your life. God will call you to greater things, and everybody's story is different. Everybody's path is different. So it's important to just be obedient to God, follow God, and God will prune people out and bring people in depending on the season of your life that you're in and that you need. And keep a positive attitude about it. Yes, it's good to grieve, like to say, hey, I'm, just missed that relationship. That was really sad. But God has moved you on to something else. That's the direction that you should be going. You never know when your paths are going to cross again. And it is okay to outgrow people. A lot of times people will feel guilty about that, and they'll actually try to stifle their own growth because they don't want to make others around them feel bad. And you cannot do that. You have to flourish. And you have to consume. And if that's the direction that you're going with your life and God has taken you by the hand and you're following him, embrace that and go with it and let the rest fall where they may.
I mean, being and growing doesn't mean that you're saying that the other people are worthless, mean, or bad people. And that's a real hard concept. It is. There's a lot of friends that we've had in the past that were great people.
Yeah.
They just weren't in line with the same direction we were growing. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make people bad. It doesn't any of that stuff. But we are Christians.
Our paths forked. I mean, that's all there
Yeah.
is to it. And God may bring them back together, but right now they forked.
Yeah, we've decided to embrace the Christian life and become Christians and change many things about ourselves. And that makes us different. That doesn't necessarily make us better. And so
We're perfect.
We're perfect by any means, but different, right? And so with that growing, we are going to outgrow, and we should outgrow. And if you haven't outgrown, there's a great reflection that you need to do within yourself. Are you actually growing? Are you being weed killer, or are you being fertilizer?
I love that.
All right, let's end on that.
That should have been the title.
Maybe it will be. We don't know. Thank you guys so much for being here. Guys, we are always encouraged when you guys send us messages and let us know kind of topics and stuff that you guys want to talk about. So please feel free to do that. Leave it down in the comments if you want, or reach out to us directly. DM us on our social platforms, guys. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.